And welcome to Don't Die Before You're Dead. I'm Mary McCartney, your host, and this is where we talk about all things related to living the life that you are meant to live. And of course, in order to do that, it means that we must have as many benefits of good health, good mental energy, whatever, as possible. And today's guest is no exception. I've invited her here to talk about yoga for seniors and specifically chair yoga. Rachel Page is living in Madrid, and she is coming out with a book very, very soon, which she'll tell us more about shortly. But welcome, Rachel. I'm so glad that you're able to join me this morning and to help us to learn how we can stay mobile as we age. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary. I appreciate your invitation.
Well, you've got a lot of great stories to tell, and how you got into yoga for seniors. And I think you were telling me it started with your parents and your grandparents. So you came into it sort of through a different path than maybe what you thought at first.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started practicing yoga more than 20 years ago. And it was just something that I had as a constant in my life. I've lived in a lot of different countries. So I took classes in Korea and France and Spain. The beautiful thing about yoga is that it's a body language. You don't necessarily need to know everything that's happening through the vocal, instructions. You can watch and mirror. And after I went through a divorce in 2017, yoga really became the thing that supported me. And I got my teacher's certification shortly thereafter. And I had the experience as a teacher. I worked in several different places after getting that the Hatha yoga certification, including corporate yoga. But I would sometimes have students come up to me after classes and ask me more specific questions about the anatomy, about particular exercises, movements, what was appropriate for them. So that was probably the first spark to say, hey, actually, I want to know more to be able to answer my, students' questions. So that, coupled with having been diagnosed with a chronic illness that affected my vestibular balance system, and working with my mom and dad during the pandemic, teaching them yoga, doing classes with them, and also caretaking for my grandparents, all of those things came together to really motivate me to deepen my understanding about the human body, common injuries, muscles, the structure of the body, all of those important things that you don't necessarily get in a 200-hour yoga teacher training. So that was sort of the impetus to.
You're an ongoing learner yourself, right?
Absolutely,
You're
absolutely.
Learning, and I imagine you are quite young, a lot younger than I am, and the fact that you are working with your parents, who probably maybe younger than you, and your grandparents, you've seen the need in the seniors. Now, I have a number of people in my life who just currently have been dealing with replacements because we're getting to an age. I have a friend who had 2 knee replacements, and I have a couple of friends with hip replacements. And so yoga would be an ideal, what do you call it? An ideal recovery program?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really beneficial for anyone who's undergoing any joint replacement, for people that are recovering from illnesses, diseases, even those who are dealing with an illness or disease at present, because it gives you the chance to do the yoga with the support. So yoga often has blocks or straps or balls or things that we would use as a prop, and the chair is just the same. It's a way to make the practice more accessible when you can't use, or you can't put all of your weight on your body or on your specific joints. Or for example, you have, as you said, knee replacements. You're going to want to focus on really basic muscle strengthening exercises. And what changes it from from being simply physical therapy is that yoga includes the breath. There is no yoga without the breath. The breath is as important, if not more important, than the movements that we're doing. And so that's what, and I've worked in a physical therapy office, and I, did physical therapy exercises with patients, and, it's like, you do this, but there's no,
those listening, you are doing the arm raises, right, as you're sitting in your chair. So that would be
yeah.
the benefit to that, like you're talking about breath, and then you're moving your arms up and down. Is that conducive to good breathing practice?
Right. So that's where at least one of my main focuses as a chair yogi teacher is to really connect the breath with the movement.
Okay.
It's not always slow. Some of the exercises are more about cardiovascular, boosting the heart rate. But it's still breath intensive, and it's focused on bringing that into the practice. Yes.
Do you think that most people don't really breathe well? Like it's something we do all the time, obviously, or we're not walking around. But, we're not conscious of being good breathers, right?
Yeah. Yes. And for whatever reason, a lot of people have difficulty breathing through the nose.
Right.
Nasal breathing has so many health benefits. I'm actually reading a book called Breathe Now, and it goes very in depth about the breath
Process.
the breath process, yeah, and and how important it is to breathe in through the nose, because not only does it filter the air, but it regulates the heart rate and it increases lung volume. It's so huge. And so, yeah, actually, any listeners out there that have chronic issues with breathing through their nose, I would encourage people to get that checked out, because it just has so many health benefits.
I've never heard
And
anybody
then,
talk about that, Rachel.
yeah, it's
We talk about, breathing. I've attended, well, when I was in Mexico just recently, I attended aquafit classes, and part of that was, part of the getting ready, and the wrap up was all about the deep breathing. But I don't
yeah.
think I've ever heard anybody specify the importance of breathing in through your nose. Now, I know I got that message when I was in labor, and I was not keen on hearing that. I I thought, if I hear that one more time, I'm not going to be happy with anybody. But apart
Right.
from that, I've never heard the importance of making sure you breathe through your nose.
Yes. And from there, we're going into the diaphragmatic breath, which is the breath, the muscle that just it's lays under the lungs. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a little mushroom shape below the lungs. Yeah, and strengthening that and using the diaphragmatic breath, and even breathing slower. So slow breaths are also incredibly beneficial. One of the mechanisms that causes this breath to be so beneficial for the body is that when you are taking deep and slow diaphragmatic breaths, the vagus nerve, or the vagus nerve, is being stimulated. So the vagus nerve is the largest nerve that runs from the brain through the body. And when this particular nerve is stimulated, it helps to provoke the sympathetic nervous system. So for those who are not familiar, the sympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. So as opposed to the parasympathetic, sorry, I'm mixing those up. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, parasympathetic, rest or digest. So I just confused those two. So that nerve and that muscle connecting against the nerve stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which draws calm throughout the whole body. It dilates the blood vessels, so your body's getting filled with more blood, and the oxygen and carbon dioxide are being exchanged at better levels. So we live in a world, in a society in which many people are very, very stressed.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, or if there's high blood pressure issues, or all of these things actually are incredibly and immediately benefited by these deep, long, slow breaths. So it's beautiful, and it's probably like the most underestimated tool we have to proactively improve our health.
Recommend as far as the actual practice of it? Like, what
Yeah.
you tell your students as far as you teach them how to breathe, you teach them the
Yeah.
importance of it, and then what
Yeah.
is the practice? What do you recommend as being part of their daily routine, I guess? I mean, we all breathe. I mean, that's a given, right? But
Right.
obviously we need to become, well, I think as people, as human beings, I mean, we're one of the things I talk a lot about is we're our unconsciousness. Like, there are a lot of things that we are just out to lunch about. And
Right.
breathing is probably one of those, and we just don't give it a second thought. I know yoga
Right.
practitioners do, but
Mm.
I'm not one of them. I much to a lot of people's, my friends' chagrin. But what would you recommend as far as daily practicing good breathing habits? If that's all you
Oh,
do, I mean, that's got to be a good thing.
right. Absolutely. So probably the very most simple thing would be to encourage people to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And from here, um, what we're going to work on, and you can just do this for a few minutes a day, a couple times a day, and it will help all of these things. And I will give you a reference for the book I'm reading right now. It's incredible. It's so informative. I'll go get it. It's right here.
Okay.
So for anyone else who's actually like super curious about the breath, this is a Spanish version, but it's called Breathe, and it's called by James Nestor.
Okay. So
Um,
you read it in Spanish, do you, being out there?
yeah, yeah. Um, but so this one is breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. As you breathe out, you purse your lips and you go to the very, very, very bottom of your breath, and you continue exhaling until it feels like there's absolutely no more breath to take out. Okay. So that's our very basic beginner thing. So that's going to take, we're going to starting again, inhaling through the nose and breathing out, pursing the lips, breathing out through the mouth. Long and slow. Then you go back into the nose, and you can put your hand, one of your hands on your heart and the other just below the ribs, above the belly.
Yeah.
And you just follow this pattern. You can put a timer on your watch or your smartphone for 2 minutes. And literally just doing this is going to, if you had all of the little heart monitors and the blood pressure, the blood oxygen monitors, if you do these slow breaths, you will start to feel an improvement in your health, like very quickly.
Do you hold your breath when you breathe in through your nose? Do you hold it before you exhale? Or does that matter as much as just making sure that you are exercising that correctly?
I would say for absolute beginners, just flow through the in and the out. Just connecting with that, with the slow pursed breath, almost as though you're blowing out a small candle, a constant. And really, when you link that constant pursed lip blowing out a candle, that's activating your diaphragm. Okay. So by getting to the bottom of that breath, when you inhale, you're naturally going to be taking your breath from the diaphragm, which is one of the more challenging things to do, especially remotely, because we've been taught not to open our chests and to suck our bellies in and do all this stuff. So to have like this open, expansive breath, even in this very simple way that we've just done, it's the most basic building block, which, because I wouldn't want to go into more deeper things without having, people on my side or being able to
Right.
I don't know, follow up.
It's a good start
Yeah.
off point, right? And I mean, people don't have to worry about what they look like if they're doing that, in before they start their day and they get up in the morning or last thing at night or and some quiet space through the day. But becoming
Yeah.
conscious of the fact that it is such a critical part of life. We talk about
Yes.
being fit, so we
Yeah.
need to be oxygenated. So that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about in order for us to keep our mobility and flexibility. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at doing the chair yoga, what are
Yeah.
some of your startup things that you tell people that have never even done anything like that before? How is it? What do you recommend as sort of a start off point?
Okay, so that's a really good question. The first things you're going to want to make sure about. So there are people who might be practicing in a home office in a swivel chair like I'm in.
Uh-huh.
This is you're going to do different exercises with this as you would with a stable chair.
Okay.
Um, for anyone interested in getting started in your own home, I would say have a stable, kind of heavy chair. You can use an aluminum chair or a lighter chair, but I find that the more heavy it is, the less it's going to slip and slide. And we obviously do not
Makes
want to
sense.
augment fall risk
Right.
because that's a huge issue. Yeah, so having a yoga mat under the chair is also good because that prevents the chair from slipping.
Mhm.
You want a chair in which your knees are at a 90-degree angle. And your feet touching the ground. That's like very, very important because
Flat
if
on
your
the
feet are
ground or
not
just touching?
flat on the ground, like touching, like,
I got your
pressing
friends.
against
I
the
have to move. Yeah.
ground.
Okay.
Yeah. So those would be your the basic things you'd want to know. If you had an elevated fall risk, for example, if you have issues with dizziness, you would also maybe want to situate your chair near a wall so you have an
Mhm.
additional support, or even practice your routine with somebody.
Good thing.
So we don't want to have anybody in dangerous situations.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Mhm.
when you got your feet flat on the floor and you can, I guess, handle your posture, which will help you breathe better, right? And then
Yes.
how can you move your upper body? Like, I guess, can you build core strength
Oh,
with
totally.
chair yoga?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. So, yes. So from a seated position, feet ankles stacked under the knees, sitting at a 90-degree angle. You can wiggle one hip to the side. Those are like your sits bones, the bones at the bottom of the pelvis,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you just kind of lift up through the chest and you squeeze shoulder blades together. And then you drop the shoulders from the ears,
Mm-hmm.
right? And drop the chin ever so slightly. And from here, we're just gonna just shift a little bit from side to side, right?
That's
And
relatively
we're gonna relax,
easy to do if I'm doing it right.
right? Roll those shoulders back and connecting the breath in there with the nose and through the nose.
You
Right?
do
Because
it. Sorry.
when we're
Do any arm raises? I know
oh,
for myself as a senior, most of us are kind of frustrated with the size of the underarm area, like the lower part
yeah.
of our arms. Is there something that we can do that would be helpful for that as well?
From head to toe, there are routines from head to toe. There's exercise. So there's yeah, actually in the book that I'm publishing in June, there's exercises for the eyes and the balance system, and then neck and shoulders, arms, wrists, hands, abdomen, so belly,
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
hips, legs, knees, feet, all of it. I mean, the whole body, you can target it.
Even though you're still sitting in a chair and you don't have to worry about falling or your balance or anything.
Exactly.
Some people that have never done yoga. I mean, I did it
Yeah.
in my youth and I thought it was great. And of
Yeah.
course, as I have children, I kind of get past that. But
Yeah.
you get busy with life and you forget about that. But
Yeah.
one of the things I've been trying to stress in my life, and I do a lot of walking where I can, but it
Yeah.
probably isn't enough. So, when I ran across your information, I thought, that's probably a good thing for people to recognize, that they
Mm.
can maintain a lot of physical fitness while sitting. Um,
Ex-
Even watching TV, probably once you get a little bit more accustomed to the routine. So, do you develop
Yeah.
your own routine and make it easier?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So developing your routine, um, finding what works for you. There's some people who are going to want to, maybe set up a little space in their house where they have their chair and, maybe light a candle or burn some incense or do something like that. And maybe there's others that want to do it, like you said, watching TV, just doing the repetitions and the breathing and although it is a little bit harder to focus on your body when you're giving your attention to something else, but still,
Yeah.
you got
No,
to make
that's
it
true.
work for you.
That's true. We do.
Yeah.
I do know that focus is really important, because if we're not paying attention, and get back to talking about that, a lot of us are not aware of a
Yeah.
lot of things that are going on in our life, taking care of ourselves. Um,
Yeah.
just recognizing, like, I can't believe it's April already. Like, we're already into the second quarter of a whole, what was really just a brand new year. And
I
so,
know.
the message of saying, my message is, do what you can while you can for as long as you can. So your
Exactly.
message is the same, right? You want people to stay as flexible, I guess, as fit as they can be. Now, you mentioned getting your heart rate up. Can you do that? Can you do an aerobic workout in a chair?
Totally. Yeah, you can do it. So there's a lot of so for those who are listening, you can do skipping rope, for example. You
Oh,
can do
okay.
row. There's a lot of quite like mobile exercises that you can do that are
Okay,
basically
I
like
see. Yeah, elbows to knees, crisscross.
yeah, seated aerobic exercises or
Yeah.
even like dancing movements that you can
Oh,
do.
right.
Shimmy shoulders
Shimmy,
there.
yeah. Well, actually,
Yes,
if you attend a lot of music events, a lot of us are really sitting in our chairs doing the whole dance thing while we're listening
exactly.
to the music. I've done that quite a bit as of late, so that helps. Is it the speed?
Definitely.
Is it the speed that intensifies the heart rate, or is it something else? Is it the extent of the
It's
movement?
yeah, I would say it's definitely the speed. So I would encourage people to put on music that they love. I mean, like you can really improvise with chair yoga. That's the beautiful thing about it, is that once you kind of know the basics, it's like, oh wait, if I want to do my own chair yoga aerobic routine, I
Yeah.
put on my favorite song and then I'm just gonna do my like dance moves here,
Oh,
you
excellent.
know?
And we can all do
Like
that.
you can all do it, and there's really fun different ones that you can do. And of course, when you start to do these ones, you're gonna start breathing more.
Hmm.
Um, and your heart rate's gonna go up. I actually just like when I videotape these little snippets, like they're only a minute and a half, the ones that I post on Facebook at the moment. My heart's starting to beat. So it's just the movement, like just
Right.
yeah, moving your body around.
And I think that
Mhm.
also, not just the flexibility in your body, but I think it's got to really help your mindset, the energy, the movement, listening to music. I mean, it's got to kind of set the stage for, I would think, a more positive attitude, or a mindset in moving forward at whatever you're doing, I would think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I tend to think that when we are stressed in our minds, we're inevitably holding it and carrying it in our bodies, even just the way our postures are during the day. We're working all day and our yeah, I'd say, we live in pretty stressful times. It's
We
not an
do.
easy moment geopolitically, environmentally. There's so
There are a
many
lot of concerns.
a lot, right? And I think you know, especially for those who are older, and it's hard to know, especially after this pandemic in the United States. There's a lot of lockdown, a lot of fear, a lot of like staying in your home, like that was scary. I mean, I was caretaking for my elderly grandparents. It was terrifying. It
Well,
was
yes,
utterly terrifying, you
there's so
know.
much unknown there, but the fact that you were
Yeah.
able to. So, how did your grandparents react to doing chair yoga? Were they used to it before, or did you introduce it to them?
My grandpa loved it. Um, my grandmother passed away a little not so long after I came back, but my grandpa
Sorry.
was really he was really active, and he loved to do his exercises as well. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's excellent. Well, you have certainly found something that's really needed, and I can see that even on my Facebook stuff, I'm seeing a little bit more information being given out about yoga in different ways, and this is where I found you. So your Facebook page, where you're posting these clips for people to see, what is your Facebook page isn't under your name. What is it? What is it called?
The the Facebook page is called Dharma Bums Yoga.
The Bums Yoga, but it's Dharma. And how do you spell that?
Dharma Bums. Dharma.
Excellent. Dharma Bums Yoga, Facebook. Well, people, look that up, because some of you who are just listening to this auditorily have not had the benefit of watching Rachel in action like we have here on YouTube. I've been sort of, practicing a little bit along with her, but go jump on her Facebook page and check out the clips that she posts and see her in action. Do you have online classes that you do as well, Rachel?
I I am in the midst of figuring out how to get that set up, actually, with the good microphone and audio setup. And plus I'm a bit transient at the moment, a bit of a nomad, so it's been hard to get a good setup,
For
but that
sure.
is one of my goals.
For
Absolutely. I would
sure.
love to.
But your
Yeah.
book, I'm excited to, I got a glimpse of it in process or progress here, and looking for it to come out very shortly this summer. Tell us a little bit more about your book. What what
Yeah.
um, what is it that people can expect to find there?
Well, that's the thing, right? So it just it covers the physical benefits and the mental benefits, of which there are so many, like the just the well-being and the feeling good in your body and reconnecting with everything and calming it all through the breath. Like that was just such a huge part. So the book has 13 chapters of different exercises that are going to be focusing. One whole chapter is actually focused on the breath, and it goes very in depth into the depth of the breath practices you can do. Another chapter is about meditation, and just meditations you can do from your own home following the book. Then there's one on the balance system. So anybody who has dizziness, balance issues, women are more likely to have balance issues, and of course balance issues that can lead to falls, and falls are one
Right,
of the main causes for loss of mobility and
right,
independence,
right.
as we so for me, also suffering from Meniere's disease, it was really important to put a chapter that was just dedicated to those, which are interesting enough, like eye exercises and moving your head, and some eye-hand coordination. Yeah, and then going from head to toe and targeting every body area. So the beautiful thing about working with a book is that you can, for example, if you have a shoulder issue, you can work all the rest of your body. You don't have to work that injured shoulder. You don't have to do the knee exercises if you're having a knee, injury, or your before your knee replacement surgery and it hurts too much. You don't have to do that, right? So it's an incredible resource for readers to be able to tailor to their own needs.
Sure, for sure. So
Move.
injury, like a fall,
Mhm.
could
Yeah.
just be a temporary situation, and you just need to let it rest for a little bit. But there's no reason to, try and exacerbate it. There's nothing wrong with letting it rest. and go on with
Exactly.
other things until it's fully recovered, or at least until you feel. But what about this whole no pain, no gain philosophy that's been around for 100 years? In yoga, I don't
Right.
recall anybody ever saying that the pain is a good thing. So when we're stretching, for instance, if I'm
Yeah.
going to be stretching, I was seeing something the other day that called me to do something, let's just say
Mm,
touching my toes. Well, I haven't touched my toes since I was probably in my teens,
mm,
but not to force that,
yeah.
because I mean, it starts to hurt if I'm starting to pull on those muscles. So, um, what's your comment, and what do you tell people that say, well, if I try that, it hurts, but they say hurting is a good thing?
That's a good question. So I would say it's like getting into the pool from the shallow end. I would never tell any of my students to jump into the pool from the deep end, especially if it was cold.
No kidding. I agree 100% that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a progressive thing. Like it's um and that's the, I'm 41 now. I'm actually more I'm dealing with an injury that I've had since June, but in general, I'm in much better health than I was when I was 25. And I would say that because of the yoga that I've been doing this whole time. It's a very slow, progressive thing. So what helps, of course, pain to a certain degree is normal.
Mhm.
Where if you inhale your arms up and then you fall forward, might be sore, but that's where also our breath comes in to help,
Mhm.
because we don't want anyone hurting. We don't want any like locked up muscles, but sore, a little bit sore, that's okay. And that's your muscle starting to stretch, right? So as opposed to pushing into it, you just want to go slowly and then use the breath to hold it, and just also feel the softness of that boundary, because generally there's this border point, and I like people to become really aware of the sensations within their body. Where is that edge?
Mhm.
Where can you go just before it starts to hurt? And then when it does, so I'm actually actively stretching my hamstring right now. I had a hamstring injury last June. I'm still recovering from it. Okay. Yeah, and if you had a former injury, you
Yeah.
go even more gentle.
Yeah.
But we use the breath, and the breath is like the resource that will encourage the increased flexibility over time, right? So that's why they always say, repetitions, um, and then taking a break and then repetitions, because that kind of, yeah, it's like the body needs us to reinforce the movements so that it remembers, because there's
The muscle
data. It's
memory.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, there's data moving from the muscles and the joints up to the brain to get processed.
Right.
That's part of the balance system. So when we're consciously moving the body, inhaling with the breath, this is like mind-body coordination, where you inhale and
Okay.
then you exhale and down.
Well, that's important too. That's like like you said, the coordination, like they getting things in sync is as
Yeah.
important. So you're inhaling at the stretch and exhaling at the release. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For some of the like the repetitions ones, yeah, I would say inhaling up,
Yeah.
exhaling,
Inhalation
bring
arc
that up.
there. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Then when you're in longer stretches, because we do hold some of the stretches for longer, and
Yeah.
usually my cue
Yeah.
is hold stretch for 5 to 7 slow breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, right? So for most of those static exercise,
Right.
that's my
Counting
like,
breaths, not seconds. You're counting the number of breaths
exactly,
while you hold them. Good to know.
exactly.
Good to know.
Yeah, because that's it's also a way for people to feel empowered when they're doing their own exercises. It's like, I'm not relying on this timer to count 10 seconds for holding this. I'm actually breathing for 3 breaths. And therefore, you have an internal reference.
Right, right. Which
Yeah.
is helpful no matter where you are, because from what I'm hearing, this is not this is, you don't need a customized gym to go out and do this. This is something that you can do. You could probably do this on a park bench if, I mean,
Oh,
wouldn't want to do anything too crazy with people around, but if you're just sitting by, like when I travel a lot, the first thing I do when I get to a new town is I go hunt out the parks. I want to go
yeah.
for a walk, but then I want to relax and enjoy the scenery. And
Yeah,
even if I was just doing the breathing properly, that would go a long way towards helping me stay moving longer.
exactly.
Question for you
Exactly.
here. What if some people say to you, well, you know what? I'm a little old to start anything like that now. I don't think I'll bother. And yet, that's probably the one thing they need in order to enhance their longevity. So it's a conundrum. What do you say to those people who say, oh, I'm too old to start that?
Oh, I say you're never too old, and better late than never.
Yeah.
But also, like, if somebody was saying that, I would be curious about more of their underlying beliefs and attitudes for why they feel that way, and I had my grandparents were active very, 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 and worked until their mid 80s, and they were both lived to be in their upper 90s, and they were both active until the end of their lives, which was really amazing to see. um but yeah, it's like you're worth it. You're worth it. And moreover, it's an invitation to feel good in your body, and that, if I was to say anything, it's really hard to get older. It's really hard to be diagnosed with a chronic disease. It's really hard to have an injury that you don't ever totally recover from. You have to mourn that. You have to mourn the loss. A lot of us think a lot about what we were used to be able to do, what we were capable of before.
Right.
And so what chair yoga, and at least my perspective as a teacher, this is an invitation to reconnect with how it felt good to move, and how we can reclaim that and find that again through simple
Yeah.
movements. And
Well, I
it's
like
like
what
you think about when you were
I
a
like what
kid,
you just said. Oh, I like what you just said, Rachel. Don't need, sorry to cut you off. Um,
yeah,
I think one of the words that you just said that really kind of stuck out to me is reclaim. So for those
yeah,
people who have, for lack of a better word, let's say seized up a little bit because they haven't
yeah,
done anything, they gave up, they didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, I lost my husband 6 years ago, but I didn't stay home.
mm,
I'm out running around, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but some people that lose somebody that's part of their life will just kind of stay home. And so they may have lost a lot of that flexibility. And you've just used the word reclaim. Can there
mm.
be recovery back into a more agile state if you've let it go?
Can there be, if you stop, or if you
If you kind of just stop moving and you've just sat on the couch for a long time and you haven't been that agile, if you
yeah,
decide you're going to do chair yoga, it might be very difficult to start with, but can you reclaim some of your flexibility and improve your circumstances? Like some people might just quit and say, well, it's too late, I can't, it's, oh,
right,
I can't move now, so I won't bother. But can they reclaim some level of activity?
without a doubt,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Even from that first intentional breath, even from those first movements, even if your range of motion is very limited, it's so important to keep it going, because that can come back. Our bodies, even though we go into states of illness or disease, um, and I'm so sorry to hear about your husband, about him passing. Yeah, and so even if one has theoretically given up, or decided, or is in a difficult state, because as we know, when we're physically not feeling well, generally mentally it's really hard too.
Right.
Um, And that can be a reason why people stop. It's because of depression or sadness, and there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. That's something that, if anything, like encouragement, love, and a positive like effort can really help. And there are cases where are very extreme, of course, but yeah, I mean, like, even if it was just like a small movement in your wrist or some, like, here's the thing. This is something that's come up over the process of writing this book, is like, we always focus about where it hurts.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask, where doesn't it hurt? Like, what is that border where it doesn't hurt? Like, where in your body do you feel good right now? Like, how can we also focus on what feels good and what can we appreciate as well? That's not to overlook the pain or the illness or the injury, but to say, like, even though I have this, what else is still possible?
Right.
You know,
On that part and work with it while you can.
yeah,
That's what I kind of mentioned. Do what you can while you can, for as long
yeah,
as you can, because you in your book may have many suggestions and ideas and whatnot to accommodate or modify. Some people might not be able to do that at the start, but can work towards those kinds of things. One of the things you
exactly.
said, Rachel, that I really liked is you're worth it. And I think we
Mm,
have to look at our own idea of loving ourselves enough to live the best we can for as long as we can. And so when I look at your information, and I'm thinking, I'm blessed with really fairly good health. We talked a little bit at one point about blood pressure. I did have to end up taking some blood pressure medication. And I got to the place where I had to put vanity aside, because I was kind of proud of the fact that I'm this age and I'm fit and I'm everything. And yet my blood pressure was running too high, probably because I don't really eat properly. I don't eat the right things. And I have an enormous sweet tooth. I know where every ice cream shop is, I think, around town. So I've had to accept the fact that I need some help. But when you
mm,
talked about relieving the stress, and, of course, weight is part of that whole issue, but loving ourselves enough to say, hey, if we ignore if I continue to ignore the fact that my blood pressure was running high, I mean, they call it the silent killer for a reason. And I had to get off the high horse and say, I need help. And I think
absolutely.
there's a lot of help that we can have. And what you're offering to people who are maybe at a place now where chair yoga is the perfect solution for going forward, but it could also be a transition for someone who is temporarily incapacitated or limited, let's say that. So I've really enjoyed talking to you, Rachel, and I really appreciate that what you've shared with us. And just to remind listeners again that there are video clips to actually see. I've been able to watch what you've been doing, and anybody jumping on YouTube. And even if you're listening to this, jump on YouTube and watch Rachel as she sort of rotates her wrists and lifts her arms, and as she's explaining what's going on. I've so appreciated that kind of demonstration in this process, Rachel. So they can find you at Dharma Bums Yoga on your Facebook page for those clips, right? And your book is
Exactly.
called, and what's your book called?
Chair yoga for seniors.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
I'm working through the subtitle. So yes, but it's I'm like, wait a second, I can't remember my subtitle. Hold on one second. And maybe I can ask you your opinion here. Um
Go ahead. Put
yes.
me on the spot. I love it.
No, I let's see,
I
library.
read part of it. And while you're looking for it, I do know it says the exercises will build core strength and improve balance, increase
Yes.
mobility, and an active life free from pain. I really thought those were really strong points that you were making for your book. So,
Mm.
and you will
So
post
that,
it, won't you?
yeah, well, that was the one I was wondering about. I wanted to ask you. So for the last sentence, for an active life free of pain, my mom said, Rachel, that's a pretty strong thing to say. And I was like, it really is. And then I was like, what about an active and empowered life? What do you think about that?
Oh, anything that deals with living fully, I'd hesitate
Yeah.
about free from pain because I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know that all yoga is going to help with like rheumatoid arthritis. There are things that people have pain from. There may be relief from pain, but maybe not free from pain. So I don't know if I would go that route, but definitely
Right.
promote an active life for longevity. For,
Uh-huh.
even that
That's a
might,
good one too.
but I like active life, empower yourself, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
those
exactly.
are excellent. And you're promoting ways for people to live their best life, which is why I asked you to come on the show here today, because I think
Mhm.
people, um, they're giving up too early. I'm 72 and
Yeah.
I'm blessed with good health, good energy. People don't want to do what I'm doing, and that's fine, but do what they can. Like, don't give up. Get out of the couch, get off the couch, get out of the house, go for a walk. I like to go for a bike ride, but it's kind of, I have to put it in my vehicle in order to drive somewhere to ride my bike safely. And anyway, there's a lot. I went kayaking last summer. I tried paddle boarding. I kept falling off, but it was fun. I laughed myself silly. But I'm blessed with being able to do that. And I just would like people to say that they have blessings too in different areas and to go out
Exactly.
and do what they can. So
Exactly.
I love your message, Rachel, and I wish you well. And I hope you will. I will be following you on your Facebook page, and I will be looking for your posting of your book. Um, is it going to be available on Amazon or Kindle or
Yes.
somewhere? Excellent,
Yes. And I'm actually going to have like an early readers group, which means that
fabulous,
yes, and I'll be giving away um free copies of the PDF of the book in exchange for a review on Amazon. So
excellent. Well, there's all good
yeah,
reasons for people to jump on your page, Rachel. And so, thank you
exactly.
again. I so appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's been awesome, and stay in touch and let me know where your next travels are, because Mexico is fabulous. I don't know if you've been. I've been to Guatemala. I'm just starting my overseas journey, but I'm driving around Canada to start. So let us know where you're at, and we'll follow you on Facebook.
Amazing, Mary. Thank you so much for talking today. It's really the first time that I've done an interview of this nature, and it felt really good to be able to talk more about the project and why it's such a blessing to share this with people, because it really it
It
just
excites you. It's your gift.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's
I wish
yeah.
you all the best on going in and just empowering a lot of people in your path for wellness. So good for you. Keep on.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay,
Thank
we'll take
you.
care. So thank you so much, Rachel. And again, this is Mary McCartney from Don't Die Before You're Dead. So follow Rachel on her Dharma Bums Yoga. Follow me on Don't Die Before You're Dead Facebook page, and I'll be heading out to the East Coast early June. So as I always say, you want to tell me where to go, that's your perfect opportunity. You've been there, you want to be there, you want to see pictures, let me know, and we'll just hang out together. So until next time, thanks for joining. Take care now. Bye bye.